Thousands of unaccompanied children crossing the border into this country is causing a humanitarian crisis. The issue is dividing families, communities, and definitely Congress. Congressman Andy Harris is here with his thoughts on the issue and on immigration reform as a whole. Good morning.
Good morning, Patrice.
A lot going on in Washington with this and pretty much around the country, especially the border states. There are a lot of questions about this. Some deal with the short term and what has to happen now, and then the long-term policy. Let's talk about short term. What should happen with these children?
Well, we've got to take care of the 50,000 unaccompanied children who are here in the United States now. And I think what we should have to do is process them fairly quickly through the process and get their hearings as soon as possible. The wait time right now for hearing is 1.5 to 5 years. That's unacceptable. That would be unacceptable in a regular courtroom. It should be unacceptable in an immigration courtroom. And
so that's something that the president is trying to make happen to expedite the process for having the hearings for those kids. So you support that? Yeah,
we're going to have to hire more judges. We're going to have to use teleconferencing. We're going to have to do anything we can to make those hearings prompt so that we can return these children to their family back home as soon as possible.
In the meantime, should any of them come to Maryland to be housed until that time that they can have hearings?
Well, I think that we can avoid that by just speeding up the time that they are turned over to their relatives here in the country. The law says they have to be turned over awaiting that hearing, that courtroom hearing.
And that's provided if they have family here. What about those?
No, they're all supposed to. Okay. They're all supposed to have identified family here, someone to take care of them. And the average wait time is 35 days in a facility waiting to get them to their family. That's way too long. We have to identify the family or relatives, get them to that family, but more importantly, get that courtroom hearing, the immigration hearing sped up.
Let's talk about the long term now, because, I mean, things like this could keep happening if there is no long-term plan and policy in place for dealing with immigrants coming into this country. What are some of the things that need to happen, in your opinion?
Well, for these children, the first thing we have to realize, this trip is very dangerous. We see the pictures of these children up on top of freight trains. I mean, we have got to discourage the parents from putting their children on top of freight trains sent to the United States. Now, whether that means what we have to do is do more careful screening in the home country, if they're truly refugees, if they're being sex trafficked, if they're being human trafficked, sure, we should consider asylum, but the vast majority aren't. We just have to send the message, I think, that the border is not wide open, that, in fact, once you come here, it is not guaranteed that you're going to stay. In fact, likely than not, you're going to be sent back. And just, again, discourage those parents from making that tough decision to put their kid on top of a freight train.
On your website, there was something that says, you were discussing this at a town hall meeting, and one of the things that came up, you said you don't support a path to citizenship for these immigrants. Is there any case in which you would, and why is it that you don't?
Sure. No. Clearly, if someone, again, if they come under the law, just like we did with Cuban refugees, for instance, if they're coming in and they're being trafficked at home, or they're being trafficked here, they're being brought in as sex trafficked, for instance, then no, we have asylum. That should be a pathway to citizenship, just like it is for Cubans who are fleeing communism. But for the vast majority of people who are crossing the border illegally, especially adults, I don't think that we should offer a pathway to citizenship.
What should happen with all the illegal immigrants who are already in our country, and then what do you do to stop more from coming? That's part of the larger immigration issue.
I agree, and the first thing we have to do is we have to close the border. We have to make it clear to people that you just can't enter whenever you want to in the United States. Then what we should do is, I think, is tell the people who are here, you know, get in line. Go ahead. Get in line behind the other people from your country or with the other people from your country who are seeking legal immigration, and we'll give you a shot. But to put them at the head of the line is just not fair to the people who are really following the law back at home in their countries and getting in line to come to the United States.
Congress seems to be gridlocked on doing anything, any movement on this, and the president said, I'm going to do what I can, you know, even if it's around the edges of the whole issue to get something started. What is Congress going to do? When is there going to be some movement, or what do you think about what the president is trying to do?
Well, we'll deal with the children. Next week, the House will pass a bill. We'll deal with it. We'll provide a little more funding to make sure that we're taking care of those 50,000 and getting those hearings moved up, for instance. But then I don't think we're going to make another decision on any more immigration until next year, when we see what the new Senate is like, and hopefully the President is willing to work a little bit more with Congress on this issue and not draw a line in the sand. You know, it's either citizenship or nothing. Well, that's not the way to negotiate.
Congressman Harris.